Yo, what's going on, guys? I know it's been a minute. I'm gonna go ahead and talk to you about a few things today that are on my mind. I hope they are helpful to you, and I hope they do allow you to feel some sort of comfort in knowing that most of the problems that we all have as humans are shared. We a lot of times think that we're alone in the world in regards to troubles that we have to deal with, right? Um, if you were not to feel alone, would you thusly make the choices that you make today? I apologize for the sound of the dog barking, but I can't do much about that. So, in regards to feeling alone, in regards to what the current world is changing to, you must realize this. The only issue that there is, and that must be dealt with, is the lack of communication and the lack of understanding. I'll explain to you exactly how I feel all these things, when addressed, will fix other problems that we have. But what I mean by that is, when it comes to equality, uh, whether it's about sex, you know, regardless of what or who you identify with, I don't care. It is what it is. What I find issue with is when a government, when an agency, basically when anything that is not yours, something that does not pertain to you, they shove their nose in your business. They assume they have a right to know exactly what it is that you wish to do with your sex life. And make no mistake about it, the lack of sexual education can and is the root issue of all the confusion that there is. Sure, are you telling me, Michael, that if you improve the sexual education status of everywhere you go, and it's not just the U.S., are you saying that if you improve that you'll reduce crime? I cannot tell you that fixing this is what's going to absolve the world of all its crimes and thusly stop them from occurring. But I can tell you that if people were better in understanding themselves and exactly what and who they are and what they feel, maybe we wouldn't have people that tend to lash out and lose their temperament in cases where it costs the life of another. A lot of times, if you reflect, you'll find that the decisions you might have made in the past are foolish, but you know that at the moment that you were making them, you thought they were wise. Such is life. We spend a lot of time trying to figure out what to do or what is the right thing to do. We look in books, we look to people, and we invest not only time but the money. And when you have to spend both, you're still helping yourself, but you are not fully understanding the essence of what it means to know thyself. You know, what I mean by that is I can speak to you any words. The words are not foreign to you. It is the order of which I put them that makes sense to you. Anything that you can tell me, there is no chance that I might not already know. I don't know it yet, but once you tell it to me, it makes sense. That moment where things just click. That you have the answer to all of your problems. And to further dive into that, the remedy to any issue, any malady within the human body or outside, exists in the diagnosis, in proper diagnosis. I cannot tell you how dangerous it is, I think, for people to be self-diagnosing themselves with things such as anxiety and depression and the lack of being able to focus, whatever it is you want to call it. I'll address how I think those issues come to be within a person, but self-diagnosing yourself and then assuming that you know what the true remedy is when you're actually going in the opposite direction, it's not doing you much better. It is not. And we like to strive to be better, to be healthier, to know better so we can make better choices. But if you don't know better, then how do you know what choices to make? You're either told what is right or you listen to what you feel is right. Man, and I say man just so I don't have to say man and woman, right? Mankind. Man always abides life according to his own pulse. He may listen to the world and what they have to say, but no voice should override that which is his own. Now, I see a lot of issues where people think that they have voices that tell them things. And it's not an issue per se, because it's not like you're making this up. I'm going to explain to you, and I'll go into detail about a few things that I've lived through. But the world is not what it seems. If you believe that we live on the same planet, but we each live or partake in a different world, then you know what I'm talking about, right? My life is not your life, and your life is not the life of another person in another country, in another time, another situation. It's all different. And we all reach a certain point at an age where we come to understand the same things. So, for example, when you're young, your environment is constructed for you. It's taken care of for you. You are put in an environment and you are given these things. Once you reach a certain age, you have control and you can manipulate your environment. For example, that's when people decide to leave and do their own thing. Especially the longer you've lived, where the choices have been made for you, the stronger the desire is to break free of it. And that only exists because no person ever wishes to live for the purpose of another's. We don't wish to fulfill your fantasy or your wishes. I don't care what your wish is. I care what you can do, but I don't care about what you want. Ultimately, wherever it is you go on the planet, everybody just strives for the same thing, to live according to their own means and to do it happily. I understand when people say that you should chase happiness. I do not understand how people believe that happiness is outside of them, as if the carrot or the stick method. You are not chasing something. If it is not yours to begin with, it is not yours to have. If it is, then why do you assume that you need to go ahead and chase it down as if you've lost your keys and now you can't find them? The issue is, instead of looking for others to create the answers for the questions you have, it makes much more sense to create your own answers and abide by them, to assume that you know exactly what it is to do. And I know it can get difficult, especially if you have not been afforded the responsibility to make your own decisions from a young age, down to what you have to eat, to what you have to wear, and what you must study, and what you must spend your own free time doing. If all these decisions are made for you, and then you reach your young adulthood, but you don't know how to make your own decisions now, there is the path laid out for you where you have to keep asking for directions, for advice, for basically someone to tell you what to do. And it can get overwhelming when you have so many options laid out in front of you and you don't know which one is your path to success. But to fix that, I say to you this: as long as you're confident in what it is or whatever it is that you do with yourself, or what you can do, you'll be successful wherever you go. And that statement is only supported by the following, where I say labor is Mother Nature's coin, right? It is the one form of currency that does not degrade over time. Its value does not go up or it does not go down. It is what it is. You want something, you must work for it to obtain it. You do not work for something, you steal it. And so, that's fine. Do what you want. If you really want to steal and you think that's right, in order to make your own ends meet, go ahead. But when we wish for these things, when we wish for example, a large sum of money, but we're not willing to work for it, or depending on where and when you are in life, it's much more difficult to obtain it. You feel first that if you provide enough support to justify your actions, that it is right. And that supports what I said when I said that man only abides by life according to his own pulse. You know, you can tell someone, hey, you shouldn't rob a bank. That is going to get you in trouble. But the man knows what he's doing when he does this. The issue is not only the lack of confidence in believing that he can make his earnings in another method, but also the issue that at a time when people are making decisions based off how their emotional state is, their feelings, and we all can view emotions as hues, as lenses with which affect how you perceive the world, man forgets what is wrong and what is right. With that statement, I'll discuss the topic of murders and mass killings and homicides and suicides. Not suicides, that's a different topic. But anything where man forgets what is right and what is wrong. He does not forget. He is in his own emotional state. And because that serves as a lens, as a hue, his perception of what is right and wrong is obscured. And that is exactly what not causes them to take these actions, but allows them. You know, there's the action of jumping off a cliff, and then there's things that do not allow you to take that action. It is the knowledge of what is going to happen. And understand that a lot of fear is and can be traced down to the lack of knowledge or the lack of power. I say knowledge because knowledge is power, so that in itself is redundant. But you know what I mean, right? If you believe courage is knowledge, then knowledge is courage and is power. And so when you feel like you don't have power in a situation, you are in that emotional state for as long as you deal with it. I personally am not okay with the over glorification of substance abuses in the mainstream media. I am not saying that you are not allowed to enjoy life and its pleasures. What I am saying is that you understanding that your problems are yours to fix and they will never be someone else's to fix, meaning your attempts to escape your problems and your true reality is similar it's similar to seeing someone run away from a shadow, right? It's silly to imagine it, but think about it. Running away from your own shadow, you can't hide from your own thoughts. If you truly want to understand why people do things or why they don't do things, you first have to be willing and admit yourself to dive into your shadow self, into all the dark corners of your mind. Because creativity is infinitesimal and we are alive, meaning we are not finite as well, and because life is nor good or bad, it is what it is depending on how you handle it, and because because all the decisions that you make are either based off how you feel or they're either made regardless of how you feel, it is very wise to understand that to know others, you must know thyself. It is as simple as that. It was a little difficult trying to get those words out, as you can tell. But I'm trying to find the simplest way to define this is to know thyself. For me to fully understand you, I must understand myself first. You know, when you meet someone, First, we all love to meet new people because it is a new event in life. And we cherish the new because the new can always be random and unpredictable. And such is the case when people get bored of their rituals and their habits and their current or what has been their way of living for some time. You know, understand that in anything in life, Mother Nature will charge an interest on the things that you think are to be avoided. So if you avoid a certain feeling or emotion in you, you're making room for that emotion to gain power. You know, it is it is exemplified when you see people that are trying to atone for what they've done. For example, and this is more common than it should be. In regards to the church, the Catholic Church, the diocese, why is it that members of the church praise one thing but then are okay with abusing or sexually abusing a child? Why is that? Why does one person know what is right but yet live life in the other direction? And why do they think they can get away with these things? See, you may think they have gotten away with the crime, but from the moment that it is committed, because life records, you do not have to write all the numbers and log all the things that have happened. Life records in the form of progression. If you exercise a lot, life records it and you grow. If you eat well, life records that and your body exemplifies it. You eat bad, your body records that, and you show what it is that your diet consists of. You do not have to write it down. All you have to do is see the change. And nothing cannot be what it is now without going through that process of change. For example, food. Your dish is not complete until it is cooked or whatever, prepped or whatever it is. It must go through a process of change. And so many people try to avoid change because it is uncomfortable and it is different. It is not what they have been used to. And that desire to go past the things that make or kept you comfortable has a lot to do with your upbringing. I'm going to talk to you about parenting, but that's going to be a very long topic, so I'm going to save that probably for another video in the future. But, friends, if you want to fix the world, you have to see how the people are brought up, and that means parenting. What that means is, and it's going to be difficult, but as I've said, the things that are easy are not worth it, and if it's difficult, it's only because of some form of emotional resistance. Once people are more open to the topic of parenting, once parents can no longer use the excuse of saying, I am the parent. How must you tell me that you know better for my child more than I? You have no right. This is not your child. I decide what is best. Or the parent says to the child, I'm the mother. I'm the father. You do what I say. If you do not, then you leave this house. If you do, you must never come back. But as long as you live in this house, you will do as I say. That is tyranny, okay? That is not parenting. And I'll get down to exactly what that's rooted in. But that's in this sense of entitlement that you own your children because you brought them in this world. Now, the topic of why some men choose or choose not to father their kids but are so inclined to help or save a family that has kids and no father, that is an interesting topic for another day because that is too much for me to go into right now. But if parents can overcome that, regardless of the age, young or old, I do not care, again. If parents can overcome that and say that, I am a parent, but that does not make me perfect and know it all. But to assume that you know everything and you know better because you're a parent, I'm sorry, but it's very foolish. You know, aside from fertility issues, it takes nothing to be a parent. You know, that's a different topic for another day that I'll go ahead and go into. But for you to be a parent, you must be alive. That's basically it. You know, so to say that you're much better to someone than that is not a parent is to forget that whether your child was born, and I'm I don't believe in unwanted children. I believe that there are children that we don't want to have with certain people. That is the issue. It's not the kids. We all want them. You know, we must need them. It is in us. It's the people that we have them with that we have an issue. And we have an issue because we know how important it is. But if people can understand that before they were parents themselves, to assume that they knew everything, but all of a sudden now you know everything because that one thing has changed, and it's a big thing. But to assume that you know everything because of it is very, very foolish. And with that being said, I'll go ahead and I'll talk about child abuse and how, a lot of what was, what is, and what can still be families where they use their religious beliefs to control. Um, you know, this country is very saturated with a lot of negative events. The things we know about are just the tip of the iceberg, and that's because we have this to thank. You know, I can record a crime and nobody will ask me, do you have proof, or how do I know? How can I believe you? Uh, Nothing has changed, but everything has changed because this has changed. And if you change this, you change all of that. Does that make sense? Good. I hope it does. But with that being said, if parents can overcome that, and it's literally just a line that you walk over, and that's it. You know, it's raising your head above the water. It's the difference between knowing and not knowing. If they are open to having that conversation, not only would we fix the future, you know, the future has not been made yet. It's being built. And there are things that are decided and there are things that are undecided that would happen. The lack of making a decision is making a decision in itself, and it allows for other things to go ahead and take place. But with that, we can prevent a lot of bad things happening in the future unnecessarily. For example, school shootings, right? We so are desperate for the answer as to how we can fix it, and we cry for help. Uh, and it is because it's so unpredictable, although predictable. I'll go into that. It is unpredictable. It can happen anywhere, and it does not discriminate according to what you own, your social status, the money you have, where you are, who you are, where you live, and what